There are cities that grow quietly, and there are cities that rise from fire. Atlanta belongs to the second kind, a place that has been burned to the ground, rebuilt from ash, and transformed again and again by the force of history. If you listen closely to the streets of Atlanta, you can hear more than traffic and music. You can hear the echo of struggle, resilience, and reinvention. At sunrise, Atlanta glows differently than other American cities. The light slips through towering pine trees and reflects off glass skyscrapers, old brick neighborhoods, and wide highways that stretch like veins across the land. This is not a coastal city, not a mountain city, not a river port. Atlanta is something else. It is a crossroads, a meeting place of the American South and the modern world, a place where old wounds and new dreams coexist in every block. Long before Atlanta was called Atlanta, this land was home to the Creek and Cherokee nations. They lived here for centuries, farming the fertile soil, hunting in the forests, and trading along natural routes that would later become highways and railroads. But in the 1800s, forced removal, known as the Trail of Tears, pushed these nations from their homeland, clearing the way for settlers and expansion. This loss still lingers beneath the city's foundations. Atlanta itself was born not as a grand vision but as a railroad hub. In the 1830s, the end of a railway line was marked with a simple post called terminus. From that point, a town grew, first Marthasville, then Atlanta. Its purpose was movement, trains carrying cotton, goods, and people across the South. That role made Atlanta powerful, and it made it a target. During the American Civil War, Atlanta became one of the Confederacy's most important cities. In 1864, Union forces under General William Tecumseh Sherman captured Atlanta and set much of it on fire before marching to the sea. The destruction was devastating. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. The city was left in ruins. But Atlanta did not disappear. From the ashes, it rebuilt. And it did something remarkable. It chose not to define itself by defeat. Instead, Atlanta embraced a future of industry, education, and ambition. Railroads returned, businesses grew, new neighborhoods formed. The city developed a motto that still defines it today: resurgence, rising again. By the early 20th century, Atlanta had become the unofficial capital of the New South. But beneath the progress, deep racial inequality remained. Jim Crow laws enforced segregation. Black Atlantans were denied equal access to housing, education, and political power. And yet, something powerful was happening inside these constraints. Atlanta became a center of Black education, culture, and leadership. Institutions like Morehouse College, Spelman College, and Clark Atlanta University produced generations of thinkers, doctors, lawyers, and activists. The city became known as a place where Black excellence could grow, even under oppression. And from this soil rose one of the most influential figures in American history, Martin Luther King Jr. Born in Atlanta in 1929, King would become the voice of the civil rights movement. His sermons, marches, and vision of justice echoed far beyond Georgia. Atlanta was not just his home, it was a nerve center of the struggle for equality. Churches, colleges, and community groups organized, protested, and demanded change. The city became a symbol of resistance and hope. As the civil rights movement reshaped the nation, Atlanta evolved once again. Segregation began to fall. Black political power grew. In 1973, Maynard Jackson became the city's first Black mayor, ushering in a new era of representation and reform. By the late 20th century, Atlanta was no longer just a southern city. It was becoming a global one. Its airport, now the busiest in the world, connected Atlanta to every continent. Companies like Coca-Cola, Delta, and CNN made the city an international business and media hub. Music transformed Atlanta into a cultural powerhouse, shaping hip-hop, R&B, and pop music worldwide. And yet, Atlanta never forgot its past. Old neighborhoods remained. Civil rights landmarks stood side by side with modern skyscrapers. History was not buried, it was visible. Atlanta is a city that carries its scars openly, a city that knows what it means to fall and rise again, a city where voices once silenced now shape the future. And as we move deeper into Atlanta's story, we will discover how this city of railroads and revolutions became one of the most influential places in modern America, not just economically, but culturally and spiritually. Atlanta entered the modern era carrying the weight of its history and the momentum of its ambition. By the late 20th century, the city had become something rare in the American South, a place where Black leadership, global business, and cultural creativity could exist in the same space. This balance was not accidental. It was the result of decades of struggle, vision, and determination. As civil rights laws reshaped the country, Atlanta began redefining itself. Black political power grew steadily, and with it came new opportunities for investment and representation. Neighborhoods that had once been excluded from decision-making began to see development. Schools, transit, and public spaces expanded. The city's leadership promoted Atlanta as a model of racial progress, branding it as the city too busy to hate. At the same time, Atlanta's role as a transportation hub accelerated its rise. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport became a gateway to the world. Millions of travelers pass through each year, bringing business, culture, and global connection. Atlanta was no longer just a southern crossroads, it was a global intersection. This openness attracted people from everywhere. African Americans from the North returned south, seeking opportunity and a deeper sense of cultural belonging. Immigrants from Asia, Latin America, and Africa arrived, adding new layers to the city's identity. Atlanta became one of the most diverse metropolitan areas in the United States, where dozens of languages could be heard in a single neighborhood. Music played a powerful role in shaping Atlanta's modern image. The city became the birthplace of a new sound, Southern hip-hop. Artists like Outkast, T.I., Ludacris, and later generations transformed Atlanta into one of the most influential music cities in the world. Studios, producers, and independent labels turned local stories into global anthems. Atlanta was no longer following trends, it was setting them. Film and television followed. Tax incentives and creative talent made Georgia one of the busiest filming locations in North America. Atlanta quietly became Hollywood of the South. Major productions brought jobs, investment, and a new kind of cultural visibility. Yet beneath the growth, deep challenges remained. Rising housing costs pushed longtime residents out of historic neighborhoods. Gentrification changed the character of communities that had once been cultural anchors. Economic inequality widened, even as wealth flowed into the city. The same forces that brought opportunity also brought displacement. Atlanta also struggled with transportation and urban sprawl. Highways cut through neighborhoods. Traffic became legendary. Public transit expanded but could not fully keep up with the city's growth. The city that once grew from railroads now wrestled with how to move millions of people through an ever-expanding landscape. Still, Atlanta's spirit of activism never faded. Grassroots movements emerged to fight for affordable housing, voting rights, and police reform. Civil rights, once fought in the streets, evolved into new forms of civic engagement. The city remained a center of political organizing, particularly for Black voters who reshaped national elections in recent years. Atlanta's colleges and universities continued producing leaders, entrepreneurs, and thinkers. The legacy of King, of John Lewis, of generations who marched and sacrificed, remained alive not in monuments alone, but in ongoing work. At the same time, Atlanta embraced a new kind of future. Tech startups, creative industries, and green initiatives began to grow. The city experimented with sustainability, urban farming, and community-based development. Young people arrived with ideas and energy, seeing Atlanta as a place where they could still build something meaningful. This tension between history and innovation, memory and momentum, defines Atlanta more than any skyline ever could. In the final part of our journey, we will step back and reflect on what Atlanta has become. We will ask what it means for a city built on railroads, rebellion, and resilience to face the future, and why Atlanta's story matters far beyond Georgia. As night falls over Atlanta, the city glows with a quiet intensity. The skyline lights shimmer above tree-lined neighborhoods, highways pulse with movement, and music drifts from open windows and late-night studios. Atlanta does not sleep easily, it reflects. It remembers. It keeps moving forward. Few cities in America carry as much emotional weight beneath their streets. Atlanta is not just a place where history happened. It is a place where history is still unfolding. The struggles for equality, dignity, and opportunity did not end with speeches or legislation. They became part of the city's living identity, woven into daily life, into neighborhoods, into the ambitions of each new generation. Atlanta's greatest achievement is not its skyline or its corporations. It is the fact that it transformed pain into purpose. From the ashes of the Civil War to the marches of the Civil Rights Movement, this city learned how to rise again and again. Each era tested it. Each time, Atlanta refused to remain what it was. Today, Atlanta stands as a beacon of cultural power. Its music moves the world. Its filmmakers tell stories that shape how America sees itself. Its entrepreneurs redefine what success looks like for a new generation. And through it all, the city remains rooted in the belief that progress is possible, even when it is slow, imperfect, and contested. But Atlanta's story is not one of simple triumph. It is one of responsibility. With growth comes the obligation to remember those who built the city. With prosperity comes the need to protect those who might be pushed aside. With influence comes the challenge of using it wisely. Atlanta's future will be defined not just by how fast it grows, but by how fairly it shares what it creates. There is a reason so many people feel drawn to this place. Atlanta offers something rare, the chance to be part of a story bigger than yourself, a story of resilience, of voice, of transformation. From the railroads that first brought people here, to the marches that changed a nation, to the artists and innovators shaping tomorrow, Atlanta has always been a city of movement, not just of bodies, but of ideas. And as we step back from this journey, one truth becomes clear. Atlanta is not done becoming. It is still rising, still redefining, still writing its next chapter. If this story moved you, inspired you, or gave you a new way to see Atlanta, take a moment to be part of it. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more cinematic journeys through the places that shape our world. Because cities don't just grow, they evolve. And Atlanta is still evolving.